Hello and welcome to the MAC weather page for this Thursday, December 8th. And again, our December to Remember headlines continues to keep in play. We talked about this all the way back in September and really started to see the players on the table that could provide for a memorable December. And we're beginning to go into that period now. We've got a pretty significant lake effect situation setting up. And as we look at the headlines here, again, those significant lake effect snows will continue right into tomorrow night, and anywhere from 4 to 6 inches all the way up to over a foot of snow along the lake shore can be expected. And then I think all areas, we're going to watch one, possibly two systems coming up. First of all, for Saturday night into Sunday night, and then perhaps around Tuesday or so, we could have a major winter storm. But again, the snow for the weekend, Saturday night into Sunday night, looks like right now a pretty solid 3 to 6 inches with potentially a little more than that. But again, it looks like a pretty good chance for 3 to 6 inches. It should be our first plowable snow for the non-snowbelt areas. And again, we're going to want to really keep an eye on that secondary storm that the European absolutely would explode the snowfall across much of the Great Lakes here as we get into next week. And so we're going to follow that as well. If we look at the normals, our normal high is 35, the normal low is 21. And if we look at the highest temperatures yesterday across the lower 48, 87 degrees at Miami, and the cold spot, minus 29 degrees at West Yellowstone. So very cold air, and it's that cold air that's sinking into the Great Lakes that's going to be a player as far as that weekend overrunning snow. If we look at the conditions around the area yesterday, you can see we're still 6.7 degrees above normal per day, but that's going to be going down, and by this time next week we may be near normal, maybe even in the blue. And as far as yesterday, the highest temperature 38 degrees at Lansing, the low 26 at Newaygo. If we look at the conditions around the area this morning, mainly low to mid 20s, and you can see the area of winter storm warnings across the west, and then inland we have winter weather advisories. So again, quite a bit of snow there. Inland areas could see a dusting to perhaps up to 1.5 inches, especially around US 127 and points to the west. If we look at the again, the radar map this morning, you can see the activity really beginning to pick up across the UP and the northwestern lower Michigan area. And again, as the next wave comes around, you're going to see a lot of this pick up across southwest lower Michigan, which you can start to see some returns already beginning to show up. But again, by late this afternoon, we're going to see very dangerous driving conditions across that part of the state. If we look at the local radar in Grand Rapids, you can see actually this morning here around 5:30, we have some pretty good snow showers, some big rapids to near Mount Pleasant, or driving along US or N20 there. Certainly could be some dicey conditions at times there with some heavier snow showers. And you can see some of these snow showers already coming into about the US 127 area from Mount Pleasant, Lansing, and points in between. Again, those will be lighter as the heaviest snow bands will set up here over the next several hours, well off to the west. If we look at the satellite view this morning, you can see that cold air that's coming down across the Great Lakes. We got our next weather maker that's coming in off the Pacific, and as that moves into this colder air along with some moisture coming out of the Pacific, that's going to set up a pretty good overrunning situation, and we're going to be deep enough so that all of our precipitation should fall in the form of snow. And again, you can see that moisture coming in off the Pacific. It's going to team up with that low pressure system, and again, as it heads towards this very cold shallow air, we're going to have a really good overrunning warm air advection pattern set up, and that's going to give us some pretty significant snows once we get a little bit deeper into the weekend. As far as the weather map this morning, you can see the lake effect around the Great Lakes, and our next weather system now just coming in off the Pacific. And if we look at the weather map by Friday morning, you can see that low pressure and its moisture beginning to emerge out of the Rockies. Lake effect continuing, but it should lighten up just a little bit as we get later in the day. But again, it's going to continue to pile up the snow near the Great Lakes. And finally, as we get into the weather map on Saturday morning, you can see that warm front now trying to move towards the northeast, and as it does, we're going to expect a band of snow to develop across much of the northern and central plains into the Great Lakes. And again, you can see the heaviest snow is expected to form right into the lower Michigan. And again, by Sunday, we expect that area to expand off to the northeast. And then we're going to watch for a secondary storm that may develop on that front. It could bring us some very significant snows here around the Tuesday time frame, give or take about 12 hours. And behind that, some very bitterly cold air expected for the middle and end of next week. if we look at how much precipitation over the next 7 days, you can clearly see along the lake shore, this could be potentially up to a foot, maybe even more across some areas. So a lot of significant snows there. And over the next 7 days, 6, 7, and 8 tenths across even the eastern areas, and that'd be for that overrunning snow on Saturday. And potentially, I think we could see these moisture levels go up depending on how that second storm pans out. Again, the European and the Canadian do show it, and not terribly strong, but the European would really have a very significant storm here by Tuesday or so of next week. How much snow on some of the models over the next 3 or 4 days as we get into Monday? The GFS puts down about 2 to maybe 4 inches of snow across much of the area, and again, they're really underplaying this lake effect. And then through next Friday, the GFS, you can see, has a lot of snow across the lower peninsula, up to even 10 to 15 inches of snow across the southern portions of the state back into Iowa. And if we look at the Canadian here over the next about 4 days, as we get into about Tuesday night or so, you can see a half a foot of snow or more across much of the area. I like how it depicts some of the lake effect here. I think it'll even be more, and definitely I think it'll be more up across northwest lower Michigan than 6, 7, 8 inches. I think they could have quite a bit of snow up there. And the Canadian through next Friday, again, it shows the secondary system, and it would show up to 20 inches of snow from Iowa all the way into northern Indiana and Ohio. So it's a little bit farther south, but it definitely shows that second system. Now again, the European model, which we can't show due to copyrights, would put a band from about 1.5 feet of snow up to 2 feet of snow from around Traverse City all the way down into northern Indiana, Ohio, and it'd have about 20, 24 inches of snow across central and south central lower Michigan. Again, not that that's going to happen, but all the models do indicate quite a bit of snow for much of the area here over the next week or so. Thanks for stopping by, and have yourself a great day, and 73s to all.